I get a lot of questions about real estate investing, and even though I was in my studio earlier, I'm in my office working, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just bring my camera in my office just to answer some of the questions that I get. But one of the main questions that I get from people who are interested in real estate investing is like, where do I get started in terms of how I structure my business? Because most people, when they get into real estate investing, it might not be their first or only job or business. Most of the times they got a job, or if they're entrepreneurs, they have an operating business. So I like to say this: begin with having your holding company. I'm big on holding companies. I've got a couple thousand videos on my YouTube page talking about holding companies as a business consultant. That's one of the first things that I tell people to do in terms of structuring their business, whether you're an employee, W-2, 1099 contractor, or a legitimate business owner. It really doesn't matter what kind of business or industry you're in. You should have a holding company because that's your legacy company. That's your parent company. So let's just assume you start from scratch, but you want to get into real estate investing, which I don't know how you're going to do it unless you got some money. So you probably have a job or another business like a LLC that you're using to operate to sell the products and services that you have. Either way, you start a holding company. You're not going to put your real estate investment company under your operating business. You start a holding company. This would be your parent company. If you do have an existing LLC or multiple LLCs, once you get your holding company LLC set up and structured, then you just transfer the ownership of those under the holding company because you want to own one and you want the one to own the other ones. Once you do have the holding company set up, then when you're ready to pursue the real estate investing, you set up a real estate LLC, okay? At least the first one. Now, can you use your holding company to market? Yeah, you can use your holding company. Like, for example, my holding company is Ramon Preston Enterprises. I've marketed to people to buy their real estate with Ramon Preston Enterprises. What's the big deal? Even if I go under contract, let's just say if I went under contract under my holding company, I can always have that contract assignable, and I can always tell my attorney, I'm under contract with Ramon Preston Enterprises, but we're going to close in a separate LLC with a different name. People do it all the time. People get under contract under one name, and then they may close under another name. They may be transferring it to a trust or transferring it to another LLC. It happens all the time. But again, in a perfect world, you have a holding company, and then at some point you have your real estate company. Like I have RP Capital. That's my real estate investment company. So now most of my deals, I'm going to be doing them through RP Capital. I'm going to have RP Capital as the name of the company on the contract. It's going to be the company I close, again, unless it's a situation where it needs to be in a separate LLC or if it needs to be in a trust, a land trust. It just depends. But I let my attorney help me flesh that out depending on the complication or the structure of the deal. But as far as you setting up your entity, you have a holding company and you set up a real estate company under that holding company for legal purposes. Now, if you already have an existing LLC, it's operating, it's making money, and you trying to figure out like, how can I get money into my real estate company? Well, that's one of the reasons why you want a holding company, because if you have a holding company sitting at the top, then you have an operating company that's got a bag. Then you create an LLC for your real estate. Well, once your holding company owns the operating company, the holding company has the right to take money from that operating company, and it can redistribute the money to the real estate company for investment purposes. Now, if some of these transactions are non-taxable, that's going to be based on what your tax person says. I'm not a tax person. And again, I learned a lot of this stuff just as an entrepreneur who was eager to learn and know how to structure my entities to make more money, to leverage, to lower my taxes. But I can't say all this without stressing that I'm willing to pay lawyers and tax strategists and CPAs. I've always been willing to do that, and I've always done it even when I didn't have a lot of money, because I like to know I'm doing things the right way. So of course, consult your attorney, consult your tax strategist or your CPA, but that's how I would do it if you want to get started. But guess what? Even if you don't have any of that, don't hesitate to get started. If that means you got to work with a real estate investor who already has their stuff together, you could get a wholesaling fee. You don't necessarily need an LLC. You just don't want to have your name on that contract if you're doing wholesaling. As far as just getting a commission, making calls and trying to find deals to get a finder's fee, that may not require a LLC, but you definitely don't want to be wholesaling and putting your name on no contract talking about you under contract for yourself. That's not how you want to do it. You want to have your real estate LLC set up. And again, you should have it under your holding company, preferably.